Okay, with Peter Sope, who easily won the Master Midwinters, put on a clinic, especially today. What was your throwout? You had a pretty low throwout, didn't you?
It was the first race of the series, which was an 11th.
Wow.
You know, and I wasn't even. I was pretty even happy with that finish. I was like, good. I'm in the hunt.
Yeah. So tell us about the start. You said you're very conservative with the starts. You're starting up towards the committee boat end.
My plan. I had a plan, and the plan was to. The line was pretty square.
Yeah.
I thought every start except for the last one, maybe the 11th start of the series. So I just had a cookie cutter start where I wanted to start near the committee boat, but not at the committee boat. Maybe 10 to 15 boat lengths down the line from the committee boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I just use a port tack approach, maybe 4 to 5 boat lengths below the line at 145, and I scope out the density of the line ahead of me and find a hole that I want to start in or a person I want to start under. It's typically not a person; it's more of a hole that I'm looking for.
Uh-huh.
And something I've learned about picking a hole is that you don't, after you get into your hole, I'm not into jamming the guy above me. I don't care if that guy gets a good start too. So I don't want to sneak up under him and then stick my rail against his rail, and that's going to ruin his start. And I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me either.
Mm-hmm.
But so when I find that hole and tack into it at like a minute, the first thing you do when you tack into that hole is become defensive about the area to leeward of you. So you're just looking for somebody that's going to reach down behind you and scoot underneath, or somebody's going to tack from port into it. And you don't want a big hole because you want to manage that hole. So if you have too much space below you, enough for a boat, somebody will go in there. So if there are a lot of boats behind me that are looking for holes, I just sail down and take the middle space of a boat length hole.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it very unlikely that somebody's going to go in that hole.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as there are no more threats, then you can work your way to enlarge the hole to go a little bit closer to the windward boat.
Yeah.
Then it's all about the time and distance calculation that you're making to the line.
Right.
In the past, I've been there have been years when I've been OCS or UFD twice at major regattas, including twice at 2 Master Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through a period where I decided I'm not gonna go for the best start every time. I'm very conservative about when I pull the trigger. I don't want to pull the trigger. Yeah, I pull the trigger with the people around me.
Right.
But sometimes that results in me starting several boat lengths behind the actual line.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really know where it is.
Right.
And I don't want to ever be over again. I'm used to frostbite sailing, and I like that conservative style where you have no throwouts.
Right.
It seems to work for me.
Right. So the start of the last race today.
Let me just say,
go ahead.
Continue on why I liked starting when it's a square line, starting near the committee boat. It's all important to be able to keep your lane after the start. If you can come off the line, not be over, be able to keep your lane, nobody on your bow, nobody driving over you, and if you're lifted or at a mean bearing coming off the line, and you can just keep going straight, you're going to be in the top 10% of the fleet.
Right.
at the winter mark in that race. And if you're fast, you might be in the top couple of boats each time. And there were many races, I don't know, 8 out of 10 races where I felt even or lifted coming off the committee boat, and I just kept sailing when I was lifted, and then looked for my exit strategy, which is typically off from the left, to tack back on. So it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You just go left. If you're lifted, keep going.
Yeah.
You're not going to tack on a lift.
Right. So last start you started below me.
Yeah.
You were maybe a boat length behind. I had to bail. I mean, I just slipped down.
After the start, you bailed.
Yeah, you had a very narrow lane and you were about a boat length behind, but there was a bit of space. But I noticed that you're sort of steering pretty, pretty carefully. But the point is, you held your lane, right?
Yeah.
So how do you point and hold your lane in those situations? Because I couldn't.
I mean, it's great if you can do your your bear away and acceleration off the line well, so that you're exiting the starting line fast. And I don't know if I did that well or not, but it wasn't that windy. And you can't start from a slow speed or dead stop on a beat. You have to bear off on a reach to get the blades to
To dig in.
not cavitate,
Yeah.
and accelerate and trim in and go.
Yeah.
So you time that so that when you hit the gun, you've accelerated and you're on a
Right, but how do you actually hold your lane once you get going?
Okay, so that's the foundation for holding your lane, is speed at the start. But after that, it's you have to make sure your controls are exactly where they should be. So before the start, I do a lot of little upwinds where I make sure my outhaul is set where I want it. And so as long as nothing's changed and I come off the line, it's good. The Cunningham's pretty easy to adjust. I would say go for a slightly looser setting off the line with the Cunningham than you normally would sail on the beat after the start.
Okay.
It's just because the Cunningham, when you put it on, opens the upper leech and hurts your pointing.
Right. How about Vang?
I use no vang.
Right.
So,
you can point.
which means that when you're too blocked, I take the slack out of it, and that's
Right.
it. And this new Mark II sail, when you get up to speed, it wants to be two blocked
Right.
and pinned.
Right. Sooner than before.
So you don't really adjust it. You shouldn't be letting it out. I don't start letting it out unless I get a lift or it starts blowing over 20. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to focus. And
Yeah.
I think I'm good at just focusing on my boat speed. I mean, you don't want to ever heel to weather. You want the boat flat or slightly heeled to leeward. You can sail overly flat in a laser, in my opinion. Flat is a relative thing.
Right.
You want to be hiking hard and having your telltales flow and be sailing fast. I don't like to point.
Right.
A lot of people are pointing, and if they're pointing underneath me, sometimes I'll have to match them, but that's not my preferred way to sail.
Right. Last question. First race yesterday, on the run, you reeled me in and passed to win the race, doing this sort of S-turn.
Yeah.
And we had a really cool video, which I'll show.
Uh-huh.
But just explain that. I like to go sort of straight and feel the main and just kind of like play the pressure on the boom. You were doing pretty gentle, but pretty deep, by the lee and then heading up.
Well,
And it worked really well.
I mean, there's a couple of ways of passing somebody downwind. You can kind of play your own game downwind and ignore them and try to, meet the puffs the best you can. There were a lot of puffs coming from behind us, line up for them and sail fast. But a technique I was using with you was trying to get going fast by the lee and then in a puff, do a transition from by the lee, do an upturn and point at you to close the distance, planing. And I think I was able to close the distance. I was in the inside, and you want to be in the inside coming into the leeward mark. And it's also a controlling position to be in the inside because if you were sort of forced to sail right of the rum line,
Yeah.
and I was doing an S-turn fast by the lee, then doing an upturn and a puff and planing to close the gap between me and you. And whenever I did that, it's just trial and error. It was working.
It was
I
working
kept doing
really well.
it.
I mean, you reeled me in pretty quickly.
So I just did an upturn, planed, and I could see I was catching you when I was planing.
Yeah.
So I kept doing that. But in my opinion, it's a habit of laser sailors to sail by the lee, 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 ad nauseum downwind. And that's really not the fastest way to sail laser. Maybe in light air it is. You can't, when you do an upturn, you're transitioning the flow from the leech to the buff, and there has to be a certain amount of wind and waves to be able to do that effectively. Below a certain speed, I don't know what that is, but 7, 8 knots or something, you can't do that effectively.
Yeah.
So because when you switch flow direction, it wastes some energy.
Right. You have to do it quickly.
It has to be a certain amount of knots to warrant to make
Yeah.
that work.
I was kicking myself for not protecting the inside because I figured you
Yeah,
would catch me.
but one important thing is that master sailors don't S-turn enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's something as a group we don't know how to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know how to do it when I started, the master circuit in 2009, and I had to get schooled by some coaches like David Wright or Andrew Scrivan,
Mm-hmm.
people like that you can hook into and they'll explain how to do it. And then even after learning how to do it, it takes years to be able to sort of feel comfortable doing it.
And know when to do it.
Yeah, so S-turning is really fast. It's especially fast when there are waves.
Right. Right. It was interesting to see it work so well in flat water.
I mean, let me just explain S-turning. You sail by the lee.
Right.
You when you do the transition, you push on the leeward rail, flatten the boat. That's called a leeward press.
Mm-hmm.
You're pushing the leech into the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's also beginning to head the boat up for the
Mm-hmm.
upturn.
Right.
So, and hopefully you're on a wave at that point.
Right.
So you do an upturn, and the boat's heel to leeward.
Mm-hmm.
And the flow switches. It's from the luff to the leech when you do the upturn, and you're heeled slightly, right? And you accelerate,
Mm-hmm.
and then after you've gotten the most out of that acceleration, you want to do a downturn. And that means heeling the boat to weather,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially a rock, but you're allowed to do it
Mm-hmm.
if you're steering the boat. So you rock it to windward, ease the main, and bear off. And that's cocking the gun,
Mm-hmm.
getting ready for the next turn, because all the potential energy,
Mm-hmm.
you're heeled to weather, and you're ready for another leeward press when you catch a wave.
Yeah.
And that's pushing on the leeward rail,
Uh-huh.
head up and do it again.
Yeah. By the time I realized how it was working, it was too late to get inside. Great talk, Peter. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.